Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello there, and welcome to all my listeners. Today we are diving deeper into numerology readings, and specifically, we're going to answer the question of how to answer specific questions in a numerology reading. In many ways, this is part two for the last episode I've published. So if you didn't listen to it, I highly recommend you do. But before anything else, if you're new to my podcast, I want to welcome you. In my podcast, I discuss numerology as a path for inner transformation, spiritual growth, self-understanding, and also attempt to make numerology accessible and grounded so you can use it for everyday life matters, things that actually matter to you in your daily life, like career, like relationships, like vocation, etc. And I focus on in-depth numerology, a numerology that can make you live your life better, more conscious, more balanced, more aligned with your soul and your true purpose. Now, here are a few ways you can dive deeper into numerology should you wish to do so. First and foremost, you can book yourself a numerology reading with me. In a reading, you can ask any question that is burning in your life and get precise answered, tailored especially to you. You can read more about the types of readings that I offer and contact me through the link in the episode description to book your reading with me. Now, if you wish to study numerology on a deeper level or even pursue it as a career, I invite you to check out my two numerology study paths. First, check out my self-study numerology courses. They give you the rare opportunity to study numerology online at your own pace on your mobile device, your tablet, or your laptop. Now, my current library consists of two self-study courses that are pretty comprehensive, and more are coming up. Or if you want to be initiated into the rare depths of numerology, you can sign up to my complete path of certification where you study directly with me one-on-one all the way from a beginner to numerology expert, and you get certified along the way as a professional numerologist. Again, to read more about both study paths, check out the links in the episode description. So in the previous episode, we've explored 5 keys to create a coherent and comprehensive numerology reading. A reading that gives a solid overview of a person's chart. In this episode, I want to talk about how to answer specific questions that people bring up. Our numerology chart is a vast landscape with so much information. Now, how does one know where to draw the answers from? I will attempt to provide you with a few important pointers throughout this episode that will help you understand how to approach the numbers and the chart in a way that elicits the answers you need or the answers your client slash friend slash family member wants to address. Now, always remember that numerology cannot answer every question, and that humbleness is key in approaching every chart and every person. And of course, I'm going to also touch upon that later in the episode. Now, in my previous episode, I spoke mostly about giving sort of an overall destiny reading, a general reading, what I call it. This is why it's so important. In a general reading, you see, you don't really focus on specific questions. You give a person a sort of overview of who they are, light and shadow, potentials, etc. Whereas here, we're going to talk about what happens when somebody asks you particular questions, right? They want to know something about relationships or something about their career or something about their financial, situation or something about the year to come, etc. How do we find the answers to that? So, the first guiding principle I will start with is that we let our clients or the person receiving the reading, if it's not clients, maybe it's friends in your case, we let them guide us to the necessary places in the chart. We want to listen to their needs and their questions. What does your friend or client want to know? Are they inquiring about relationship issues, monetary issues? Is it about a difficult period they're going through? First of all, as numerologists, we focus on what the person wants and needs and don't just pour irrelevant information onto them. Then we allow their questions to guide us to look at the numbers and locations in the chart that may be relevant to what they are looking for. Knowing what your client wants is very important because it actually narrows down the work for you. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by all the numbers and all the calculations, right, and the complexity of the chart, mm, now you have a direction. You have a specific topic that is asking of you for special attention. There is, in general, when giving a reading, there is never a need to say everything. And anyhow, you can't. There's simply too much, like always. The questions are helping you eliminate information and details that aren't relevant and focus on areas of the chart that have a higher probability of providing a proper answer to the person. Now, as you approach the numbers, I want you to understand something very important. Every number has many facets and dimensions. For example, number 4 has an emotional dimension where we can say it is mostly reserved and controlled, but also reliable and trustworthy, sort of low key. It has also a physical dimension where it needs safety, stability, and routine, and is also very much related to diet and money, right? Those very palpable physical things. It has a spiritual component where it governs the root chakra and the importance of sacred structure and ritual in our life. What I'm trying to say is that you can speak about the same number again and again, but every time address a different topic in the person's life. Now, understanding this is of paramount importance and in many ways is the main key in this episode. Same numbers, but many, many layers and dimensions. This allows you to access a vast number of topics using the exact same numbers. Only by knowing the numbers and their workings from the inside out. Now, when that's the case, the question of your friend or client, as we mentioned earlier, will tell you and guide you as to what dimension you should focus on. I can speak about, for example, the deeply nostalgic, romantic, and emotional dimension of number 6. But I can also speak about the psychosomatic nature it embodies and how untreated emotions can turn into physical problems. Then again, I can also speak about the devotional aspect of number six and how devotional mantra singing and being part of a supportive community can open that person's heart and make them feel at home. So, what I'm trying to say is that my job as a numerologist is to follow my clients' questions and let them lead me into the relevant dimension within their chart that can give answer to their needs. Again, just to demonstrate this one more time, if a person asks me, say, about financial issues, and I see that number seven governs the financial part of their chart, I won't speak about the search for wisdom of number seven. You see? That would be relevant had they asked me about a recommended spiritual practice or perhaps, their deepest destiny. You see what I'm saying? I would, however, explain that for a seven in that particular context of financial issues, developing a strong body of knowledge and a niche orientation in their field or career can empower them financially. So I would focus on that dimension of the number seven. I would also explain that for a seven, it might take longer to reach that financial flourishing simply because it's a number that by nature requires a more precision and thorough growth. You see, so I'm speaking to the same number. The person doesn't have, by the way, to know the numbers. Usually, when I give readings, by the way, I don't talk about the numbers. I simply speak the story. Like I just speak about the person's life. It's only in rare cases where people are really interested in numerology and they want to know the numbers. I'm happy to tell them, but for them, like let's put it this way: from my perspective, they're asking me a question. I'm looking at the same number. They don't know I'm looking at the same number, but that number has so many layers and dimensions. They're asking me about their destiny. I'm looking at number seven. They're asking me about their relationships. I might also look at number seven, right? Depending on where it shows up in the chart. They are asking me about their financial issues. I'm also looking at number seven, but each time I'm approaching a different aspect of number seven and extracting the answer from it. I hope that's clear. Now, another technique that I use to help me gather more specific information about clients is to look for clear areas of strength and weakness in the chart. When I clearly highlight these areas, I can also immediately diagnose and analyze many of their life themes much better. In practice, it means that after I read their questions, I search for the areas of strength and weakness and am consequently able to draw much needed information to share with them, if relevant to their topic of interest, of course. Now, usually, the major strengths and weaknesses in our chart will, in one way or another, have impact on all the major themes in our life. You see, and that's why I'm saying this is actually a helpful technique. Again, to give an example, if a person lacks number one in multiple places in their chart, okay, I will understand that there is deficiency of number one energy in their life. And so, if they say, ask me to help them understand what's their path in life when they are 50, I will talk about the lack of self trust and confidence that, a lack of one, a deficit of that energy produces. And also about how it hampers our ability to step into our own uniqueness and independence. Conversely, if I see in their chart a very strong nine, okay, we're talking about strengths now before we talked about weakness. So if I see a strong 9, I will place much emphasis on their visionary power and deep need and wish to impact the masses, right, through sharing of real values and ideals. So, right, that 50-year-old person came to me and I could clearly see that they're lacking. Because again, I'm saying, like, I'm just framing it for a second. Usually at the age of 50, we're a bit more clear about who we are, what we're doing, etc. Right? So if I'm 50 and I'm so unclear, and I as a numerologist see that already with that lacking one, it gives me clarity and I can help the person understand why at their age it's a struggle and validate that so they don't feel crappy about themselves. But at the same time, I can also see the strength in their 9. So I definitely, I put that out. I say that out loud to empower them, to give them clarity. So this particular technique helps me organize the data that's present in the chart and access it for my client in a way that is helpful to their questions. Now, remember that sometimes strengths and weaknesses are to be found also in period cycles or possibly in a personal year, in which case you will be able to explain why a particular time in the person's life is more empowering or challenging, or perhaps a bit of both. So let's dive deeper now into how you can spot stubborn themes in a person's chart. But before I dive right into that, if you're enjoying this podcast and you want to keep learning more in depth and high quality numerology, make sure to click the follow or subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from. And make sure to become part of my numerology community and support this work. Also, make sure to follow me on Substack, where I write in depth content about numerology and Dharma. The link is in the episode description. Lastly, make sure to check out the comment section on Spotify or YouTube and leave a comment, open a conversation. I love talking to my audience and followers, share your thoughts. I'm always trying to answer all questions, and it's an opportunity to connect. So I look forward to connecting with you, my friends. So, when you want to find an answer to a specific question in the chart, you will at times need to inquire into more than one segment of the chart and find a common denominator. You might find that a person has 2 times a 4 challenge number, which is already telling when it comes to relationship with money and anxieties around stability in life. That was just a strong lightning outside. Thunder, sorry. Um, but if the person also has a karmic debt, 13-4, in their core numbers, or perhaps a missing number 4 as well, the theme is clearly strong and alive throughout the chart. In other words, there is a common denominator, the weak/problematic number 4 in multiple chart locations. Sometimes it won't be a repeating number that you're after. This was just one example. If a person has issues with relationships and commitment, and you find a number 5 in their life path, 2 3s and 2 1s in their period cycles, and also missing 2 and 6, the common denominator also becomes very clear. You see the childlike energies, right? The 5, the 3, the 1 coming together. The self-focused energies are very strong, right? So both in those core locations and in the period cycles, right? So we had the five in the core numbers, we had the three ones in the period cycles. And in addition to that, this person is lacking the emotional and more mature and committed energies of the two and the six. So this is very telling of their approach to relationships and why they might be experiencing trouble with commitment. Now, I'm sharing some advanced techniques here, and I'm aware of that. This everything I'm sharing here, is not something that simply comes automatically, and one definitely needs a deep understanding in numerology. Um, but I want to stimulate your way of thinking. I think that in many ways, this is what my podcast is here for. Those of you, of course, who want to actually be able to apply this, you can sign up to my self-study courses or my in-depth initiatory studies. Now, next thing you want to study well in order to offer precise and specific answers is all the major locations and what they stand for. It is not uncommon for people who dabble with numerology to mix up the meanings of locations or to overgeneralize. This sometimes happens also with slightly more experienced numerologists. There is a place for generalization when it comes to capturing the essence of a person, for example. And there is a time for distinction when it comes to answering particular questions and particular topics. Take the 5 core locations for starters. Each location has very unique functions. Some people love to exclaim, I have a 5 or I am a 5. But what we're asking here is, do all people who have a 5 have it in the same location? Probably not. And this means a lot. It doesn't mean that locations don't bleed into each other. They do. But they also have their autonomy and unique function. So if a person, um, if let's say um, a person who's a parent tells me that their daughter's school has been reaching out to them, complaining about their daughter's bad behavior, okay, rebellious acts, and lack of participation in class, okay? And when I check their daughter's chart, I see a 5 in her expression number. That would be the most telling thing. Why? Because the expression number literally governs behavior. Sometimes a person with a 5 life path might be less rebellious in their behavior. It might be the way, they see the world or feel things or understand the meaning of life. Um, or when it comes to relationships, the person with the 5 life path might have more commitment issues. And we haven't even started touching upon the deeper meanings of the period cycles and other parts of the chart. But what we do know, if we're accurate and we want to give accurate answers to specific questions, is that the locations have their particular meanings. The expression number governs behavior. And so people with a 5 expression number, right, they will tend to behave like a 5. They will take that 5 energy and behave it, like rebel or insist on sort of like going against the flow when they're in a framework situation, etc. You see, even if their life path is different. So it's fascinating, and we must be precise. Um, And again, as I said, I didn't even start speaking about the period cycles because, right, this is simply becoming more and more complex, and I don't want to like overwhelm you. So remember to study all the core locations and their unique functions for starters. and then proceed to learning the period cycles. There are more locations than the core numbers and the period cycles. But for now, that's plenty. Now, on more advanced levels in numerology, you will only find the answers in the number combinations and not in any single location. Not any single location, not any single number, or even common denominator that you found in the chart, what we spoke about earlier, right? Searching for these common denominators in different compartments, so to speak, of the chart. Number combinations are some of the most important and powerful elements in numerology, and they reveal levels and levels of depth and story, that isn't accessible if you don't know them. I've made an entire self-study course about number combinations. Well, in fact, the only course out there about the topic, because even though it's arguably the most important topic in numerology, it's rarely spoken about in books or websites. Number combinations reveal strengths, weaknesses, traumas, even. They unpack the chart in unbelievable ways. If two people come to me, say, and tell me, I'm a one, right? People love to explain like their life path number and as if that's all they are. I'm a one. But say one of them has a 1-3 combo and the other person has a 1-4 combo. We are looking at worlds that are very far apart, my friends. The 1-3 combo is much more upbeat, childlike, full of ideas, more selfish and uncommitted, whereas the 1-4 combo is deeply committed, has a strong willpower, is more mature, lives with more integrity, etc. Both people with a 1 in the same location, even, right? Let's say life path number, but a number combination that changes everything because in their expression number or their soul urge, they have something else. And this is only one number combination out of many in their chart. If someone complains, let's say that they suffer from excessive self-doubt, but they tell you they are a 1. Okay, I'm a 1. What do you do? It sounds like, wait a second, how, like, why would a 1, you know what I mean? Like, suffer from issues of self-doubt. 1 is a very confident, strong willpower, sort of personality, very independent, right? It's only when you realize that they have a central 1-2 number combo that you realize that self-doubt is one of the deepest topics in their life. In short, study number combinations. You'll be able to give much more precise answers to people, and that's exactly what this episode is all about. I'm sort of like trying to give you some pointers as to how you can address specific questions, right? I'm not telling you where to search for what, because there's no ultimate sort of way of doing that. You have to learn how to read the chart and the numbers and collect the data and the information. As I said, also look at the different layers of the numbers. And with all of those pointers, when people are going to ask you specific questions, you will be able to sort of address them through those different, pointers I gave you here. So now I know I said that I said in the beginning of this episode that you simply can't answer everything, and I wanted to circle back to that. And again, I want to say that I want you really to remember that no matter how advanced your technique is, no matter how many years you practice numerology, and no matter, how big a fan you are and sort of believe in the esoterics of numerology, you can't answer every question. I would even say that answering some questions might be downright irresponsible. For example, giving health related consultations or diagnoses based on numerology, or I don't know, giving predictions about whether a person's relationship will succeed or fail, or if they will be rich or not. You know, to me, this is irresponsible. I'm not saying you can't point to certain trends. For example, it appears to be that you have a lot of potential to become rich, or this relationship seems to have many strong connecting points and a way to thrive, and even describe what are those strengths. Okay. But when it comes to health, for example, with all my respect to numerology, this is not a medical practice. You can help, gain some perspective. I'm not, negating that numbers have a clear relationship to body, mind, health topics, but you should do that with much caution, right? We're not doctors, we're numerologists. We're here to give some perspective. To give a person a diagnosis can be very, very irresponsible, misleading, and sometimes dangerous. And with regards to, let's say, the success of a love relationship, again, this is treading on dangerous grounds, because you might very well be saying something that isn't correct simply because of your arrogance, because you think you can know it all through the numbers, and you're I don't know, some unbelievable numerologist or something, and you can interfere in a natural process of unfolding love. And as I always say, love is bigger than the numbers. And this goes on and on. Bottom line, stay humble. And when you aren't sure, just be honest enough to say so. Say, listen, this is a question or a topic I don't feel that numerology can answer. Look, I'm a numerology expert. I teach numerology, I give consultations, and sometimes that's exactly what I say to clients. I tell them, listen, this is beyond my expertise. This is not something I can answer you directly with numerology, but what I can do is give you clarity about this and that. And for the most part, people say, okay, sounds great to me. I would like to hear that. So be honest and be humble. So as you can see, there are quite some ways to answer people's specific questions in numerology. Some require more practice than others, but with time, study, and proper practice, you should be able to provide detailed and also useful answers to people on many levels and support their journey in life. I find that to be a wonderful gift and something I hope to see more people learning to do and to share. And so before I wrap this up, if you have enjoyed this episode and you want to keep learning more in depth and high quality numerology, make sure to follow or subscribe to my podcast. Turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from. Become part of my community. Remember to follow me on Substack, where I write in depth content about numerology and Dharma. The link is in the podcast episode description. Remember to check out the comment section, open a conversation with me. I'm happy to answer and interact with you guys. Also, remember to check out my professional numerology readings if you want to experience numerology firsthand. And last but not least, check out my self study numerology courses or in depth numerology certification studies if you want to acquire deeper mastery of numerology. My friends, it's been incredible to share this with you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, I'll see you in the next episodes. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.